Erkan, first of all, let me greet you again in our halls. You're always welcome.
Thank you very much.
We'd like to know a little about yourself. How the photography became your job?
Wow, about myself, I mean, that will be not a very short story because everything started when I was 16, 17. In Germany, I was loving to shoot a lot of, dramatic sceneries like storm shots. So I was staying on a plain field in a very, very big agriculture field and was waiting for the clouds to come and really was expecting to shoot the lightnings. So that was actually how I got into photography. I was very, very much into lightning strikes when they're striking. So afterwards, there was actually quite a long break because due to the time when I was studying and different kind of circumstances I had in my life, because very early on I had an oncological situation in my life. So after I passed that all positively, I got again back into photography more serious. So actually, but if I have to tell how I get more serious, well, all started a little bit in Iceland and Moscow. In Moscow it was more the tuning scene, so car tuning, where a lot of people liked interesting compositions where I was making very long composition. It calls actually light painting. So the car is staying, you have a long exposure, so you roll the shutter and then you are painting actually with light bulbs around the car and create very interesting effects. So, but apart from that, I'm a person who is very much into nature. So I love the nature, I love to go for a hike, I love to be just outside in the nature. I can just go in absolute remote places and can be absolutely happy there. So from that point came actually the landscape photography side. So there is actually where it became more and more serious from my side. So landscape photography and more into, well, a lot of people would maybe argue photography is a very, very interesting field because it is actually, well, with taste you cannot really argue. So tastes are very, so you cannot really tell which part of photography. Some people like a lot of photography styles, genres. Me personally, I don't know, it's difficult for me to sometimes distinguish between a really good photographer and professional photographer. So, I mean, it's becoming more and more popular in the world. Almost everyone is photographing, almost everyone is calling himself a photographer. That's why it's a little bit difficult to tell when it became serious. But if we're talking about when it became serious, about when I started to earn more money out of photography, then it is the point when I got into landscape photography. Well, I wouldn't call it I decided to stay in Irkutsk, to be honest. So it was actually the same, it was also a transit situation. So we actually decided with my wife to come to Angarsk because she is from Angarsk. That she was pregnant that time and I wanted that she gives a birth close to her family because we actually wanted to leave Russia completely, but that would be very difficult for her because she has a little bit hard time speaking English or German because her native language and the only language she is really good speaking is Russian. So I was thinking, if I will be a lot of busy in the field videography, photography, who will take care of wife and kids? Well, this can be a little bit more frustrating when you're in a place where you're also on top not speak the language completely fluently or natively. That's the reason why we came just here. So our small one came to the world, everything was nice, everything was beautiful. A lot of interesting people came from Austria. We wanted to shoot with a very interesting, talented, biker. You can actually tell he's from Austria, and we wanted to plan some projects how he is making a world record on Baikal, but COVID destroyed, I think, pretty much all plans of a lot of people. I would call it definitely kind of source of my inspiration because the winter it's different. It's The winter in Irkutsk in Siberia, so around Lake Baikal, has something very mystical. It's at one time it is very, very lonely. It's very, very silent. On the other hand side, it is so cold that you, for example, in the mornings when we, for example, a lot of times with a good friend of mine went to Lake Baikal in the winter season, so in the really high winter season when the lake is already frozen, you can already drive with the car to the island. So that was when we really tried to get to the other places, not only the popular places. And when you see the sun rising around the whole frosted areas, like the trees and everything, you see that it's completely different landscape. It's very, very fascinating, and I would call it definitely one of my favorite seasons. Basically, I have my backpack all the time with me, so it depends a little bit on the situation, so I'm trying not to plan everything out, but most of the stuff, I mean, in landscape photography nowadays, it makes sense to plan because time is limited, time costs money, and we have not enough of that in life, so that's why the more you can organize yourself into the point where you can make the perfect shot, the more you are actually at the end happy about it, because you really, how to tell, you used your time just very useful. So that starts with planning where will be the sunrise, in which sphere, in which direction. For example, you check maps, you check the places where you want to go, where you will be able to go, because in the winter period you cannot go everywhere. I mean, last season, last winter, for example, when we wanted to go with a friend of mine, and he has actually a Jeep, so we want to go to the, it's called Tazharansky steppe, and we couldn't. It was so much snow laying and everyone that we really couldn't go through. So the wind was blowing sometimes on the road that the snow was up to knee high. So planning is a very, very crucial process, I think, for landscape photography. But more of that is actually more about seeing the moment. So it happens sometimes that you try to go somewhere, but that didn't really work out. But apart from that, there happened a situation that was way more fascinating, that was way more successful actually to shoot. So if I have to tell something about planning, more planning, then it's actually very, very important that you do not have expectations. And nature is such an environment, if you come without expectations, if you tell, okay, today I want to shoot the sunset exactly at this place, but there can something happen, there will be a cloud maybe moving in front of the sun, or something will happen maybe, and it will ruin the shot as you may imagine it. That's why, but as soon as you come without any expectations and absolutely free and try to pay attention to everything around you, then you start to see all this beautiful secrets Lake Baikal is actually for you. For example, the sculptures in the ice, the forms, all this symmetry, what is happening around. And I mean, the best thing is actually to do just to discover the place itself without any expectation. Well, definitely, I would call, I mean, there are certain genres, I think I wouldn't call my genre, I mean, landscape photography is definitely a genre where I can identify myself with other landscape photographers, but coming into well, macro shots, close-up shots, for example, of some beautiful sceneries or any kind of details. Apart from that, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan to shoot people. I have to admit that, because it is difficult, because people have expectations from the beginning. So they're all the time, oh, I want to look beautiful, I want to look deep. I mean, I'm more the person who likes to capture the reality. So the nature, how it is in that moment. And there are certain areas where I think the genre is very, very interesting going in development. That is, one of this is black and white sports photography. So on my Instagram page, for example, you can see that there was a very, very talented zero gravity yoga participant, where we really tried to do some black and white shots with very harsh light. So, high and low key photography was actually one of my second favorite genres, I would tell.